Right then, morning boys.
Morning.
Morning. So here at the Writers Group, obviously you sent us a copy of your script to get some feedback. Could you remind us a little bit more about what your script was about?
Well, the basic synopsis of the narrative is it follows a man called John. He's just on his way to the job centre, he's down on his luck, he's not had a lot of success with finding a job. But on his way there, he receives an ominous phone call from a man who's been watching him and says he's offering a job but as a hitman. And the story just follows along him there as he takes on this job and struggles telling his friends and his family about what he might do or might not do.
Okay. So I believe you guys have also got some questions in terms of getting some feedback and some specifics about your script. Yeah, shall we get started?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think the audience will be able to empathise with the characters of our narrative?
I think your audience will be able to empathise with your character because you mainly have one main character, don't you? We follow his story. He is our protagonist. I think it's quite clever that the start of it is you are following him, or we're following him on a way to sort out his life. Yeah, he's on the way to a job centre, he's down on luck, and I think that's quite emotive. But you know what? Really modern, really contemporary, things your audience would be able to relate to. Okay? Now, who do you think your audience is? What age group?
Around late teens to early 20s, mid 20s.
Yeah. So I think that's quite realistic, quite gritty. The fact that he's unemployed, he's trying to find work. It's not a Hollywood blockbuster, your film, but I think that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. And bringing in that idea of social realism to your film, which I think works really, really well. So yeah, I think your audience will be able to empathise with him, if not be able to directly relate to him.
If you could point out some obvious negatives with our narrative, what would they be?
I suppose it's about, because we're following one main character, I think it's about the variety of your camera work. Ideally, and you have some in there which is really good. It's going to be about the point of view shot. As an audience, I'm not just watching him as a spectator, but over the shoulder shot, so I feel like I am that character, again, to help me empathise with him. So I think it's going to be about camera work, variety in camera work. Ideally, because I'm meant to feel a bit sorry for him, more maybe high angles, to show that vulnerability, especially when he meets up with the man from the phone. He's meant to be quite vulnerable. So a lot, quite a few variety, but especially in the high angle and the over the shoulder shot. So I am that character, essentially. We have some instances of music, which is really good, but it's going to be about how you use music to pace the action. Yeah? Essentially, when it does start, or when you have music, I mean, from your script, it's not something you plan to have throughout, is it?
No.
But it's about how that's going to start, maybe make sure we fade in with music and then fade out gradually. So it's quite natural, but it's not abrupt in terms of, and doesn't disrupt what characters are saying. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
And on the other hand, what would you say the positives are of our narrative?
What I think is really good about yours is, again, the relatable situation. So unemployment, you've got a main character, main protagonist, which I think works really well. In regards to the bits about him telling his family, maybe this is more something you need to keep undercover.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And also, I like the idea of him getting a phone call from a telephone box. Do you have a location in mind? Because telephone boxes are quite thin on the ground.
Yeah, we've got one at Surrey Street, just next to the town hall.
Next to the town hall,
Yeah.
fantastic. Because I was a bit worried about that because they're a bit obsolete at the minute. So the fact that you've thought of your location, I think works really well.
Do you understand the narrative from start to end?
Yeah, definitely understand the narrative. It's relatable. I like the fact that you start on a bit of a disequilibrium. Yeah? And then I suppose it spirals out of control after that. But I like the idea that you haven't gone for the classic Hollywood narrative and you have started with a bit of a disruption. Because I think that intrigues your audience straight away. It makes them pay more attention to what is happening, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any major improvements which we need to get done with the narrative?
Major improvements? No, I think the narrative is easy enough to understand. There is some pace. I suppose when it does start to get more dramatic and the big disruption of what he's actually been asked to do, I suppose what you could do there in terms of thinking about editing is getting some using a bit of After Effects to make that really quick. Maybe some what's the word I'm looking for? Some deep breaths added on top as well to create that sense of panic as he's starting to contemplate what he's actually been physically asked to do. But in terms of narrative, it makes sense, it's clear, it's relatable to who you say your audience is. And I think it's a pretty good story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah? Okay.